Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we'll be taking our usual broad look across the DMV landscape. We are going to start with some big trade news for the Commanders. Did the Commanders solve their wide receiver question already? Before we even got to free agency, before we even got to the draft, we'll take a look at who they traded for and what it means for the team as a whole. We will then, of course, move on to hockey and basketball, where we will look at the weeks that were for the Caps and the Wizards. Yes, I did say Wizards. We can't call them the Lizards this week because they did win games. And would you believe me if I told you that they won more games than the Capitals did this past week? I know. Don't fall out of your chairs, okay? Stay with me. Stay with me, guys. We can't lose it over that. But yes, the Wizards had a halfway decent week. The Caps, little bit of a slump right now, little bit of a concern. Timing is bad, but is there a way out of it? We're going to talk about that. And then the second half of our show, we're going to go to the college ranks. We are going to check in on the NFL Combine, where we have several DMV participants, some of which who showed out really well, including a name that I talked about very fondly throughout the college football season, and I will hopefully will get a chance to talk about on Sundays. Cross your fingers that it's even with one of our DMV schools. We'll also check in on the latest and greatest with college basketball as we rapidly approach conference championship week. We're going to look at how the Maryland teams are shaping up, a couple of other DMV schools that are looking hot. We're going to give Virginia and Virginia Tech a break this week because bashing them repeatedly is probably just a little unnecessary. And of course, also checking in on our college baseball and softball teams. We're going to take a look at who's hot, who's starting to catch fire. One team that had a couple of tough breaks to the beginning of the season in baseball is starting to get hot, and the rest of the nation should not be happy with it. All while enjoying a lovely local beer that has an interesting tie to Black History Month, which is the theme we're finishing up this week. We've got all that and more coming up on Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sport.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to Let's Mind About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky, premium brisket beef jerky that's on a whole nother level, whole nother planet, which I guess is another level. If you want to consider it levels, planets, levels, similar things. But go to planetjerky.net today to get yours. Not expensive at all. Go check them out. Vital Apparel, a brand that makes great workout gear and also donates to an excellent cause, mental health research. So do go to their website and use code IESR to get 15% off of your purchase and continue to support them as they help that cause there with mental health research. Seal the Deal Wax Seals, custom wax deals, the perfect touch for your special occasion, birthday, wedding, party, baby shower, any of the above. Could use a nice little touch with a custom wax seal. And our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com for all of your nutrition needs today, not just protein. You guys need a lot more than that. I know most of you out there are probably already aware, but some people, maybe if you're just getting into the workout game and you're not aware of what you might need, go to Get Raw Nutrition today. They can help you out. Use promo code IESR to get 10% off of your purchase. Follow me on X at Let's Wine _IES. doing all things DMV Sports there. And do be sure to check out our supporters club. This is just another great way for all you loyal listeners out there to support us. For just $5 a month, you get a world of perks. You can pick the alcohol. You can pick the theme of a show, whatever the beverage might be. I'll do within reason, of course. I have to be able to have access to it, so don't go, picking some random wine from like Moldova that I cannot find. But we'll do a spotlight feature on one of your favorite beverages. We'll have you on the show. And of course, we can spotlight your favorite team as well. You get all of that for just $5 a month. So do support us today. Every supporter's great. Every listener is great. And whether you're listening live right now or listening later on in the week, it is all appreciated. Thank you all very much. Chat room is hopping tonight. Adam Karnick is in there. Good evening, sir, the host of Chi-Town Weekly. Brian, the host of our new Boston show, he's jumping in there. Have a great show. Thank you, sir. Always Arizona Sports. That's Alden, who's also my co-host on the Bullpen Bulletin there, saying thanks for taking Debo out of our division. We're going to get there in about 5 minutes. We're getting there. Just 5 minutes too early on that comment, so we'll get there. Taryn Rodriguez, good evening as well. And then Larry B, let's go, Mike. Thank you, all you guys, for jumping in there. We, of course, have a jam-packed show this evening, but first, we must start with our beverage. Now, the timing kind of ended up a little bit weird with the way February aligned and me missing a week. I only had 3 Saturdays in February, but I have 5 in March. So I was trying to balance it out by giving Black History Month one more nod here. So we have Wicked Weed Pernicious IPA. Now, this is from Wicked Weed out of Asheville, North Carolina. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, Mike, what does this have to do with Black History Month? Well, Wicked Weed doesn't have a black owner, to my knowledge. I'm sure if they did, that's something that I definitely would have heard about, considering I sold this beer for 4 years. But the reason why I picked this one, so this beer in the local Raleigh area of North Carolina where I live is distributed by a company called R.H. Behringer. Now, R.H. Behringer, again, it's not owned by, a black guy, doesn't have like this rich history behind it, but for the 3.5 years that I worked at Total Wine, my about half of my merchandisers, my sales rep, and my driver were all African American men. We're all black men. And sometimes, I understand, Black History Month, shouting out the history, shouting out some of the big figures, but sometimes you have to give some love and some attention to the everyday hard workers. So this one is for you guys. Shout out to all of the everyday hard workers that, help make the world go, because without your efforts, things would go awry very quickly. So shout out to you, and shout out to all of my old buddies who used to, work with me, and I used to see them a lot every Wednesday, and that was an awful beer pour, so I'm already not doing them justice. But Wicked Weed Pernicious, probably one of the most popular craft beers in North Carolina. It is an IPA, as it says. I believe this would be specifically described as an American or a classic IPA. You can see it right there on the top, 7.3%. High for a normal beer, but for IPAs, especially craft IPAs nowadays, that's pretty standard, pretty normal. Let's see if there's any fun descriptions here. Ale brewed and canned by Wicked Weed Brewing out of Asheville, North Carolina, and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. There you go. Let's see. They put their website on there. Any fun? No real fun descriptions on there. Well, you know what? It's an IPA, so I think we can take a pretty good guess on what's going to taste like. Please ignore the absolute awful, poor job there. We'll just pretend that just don't look. We'll look at it like this. All right, so there's the color. Your pretty classic kind of pale straw golden right there for an IPA. Smells exactly like I could blind smell this and tell you that it's an IPA. It's just so classic, typical. Actually, kind of smells a lot like the Harlem Brewing 125th Street IPA that we had last week. So let's give it a sip. Well, wouldn't you know it, folks? Oh my goodness, look at that foam on the mustache. Now that was classic right there. Oh my gosh, I need a still shot of that. I shouldn't have wiped that off right away. When we watch back the show, everybody, we're gonna capture that scene with the foam right there on the mustache. But you know what? Looks like an IPA, smells like an IPA. By golly, folks, we have an IPA. It tastes like one. Pretty good. Not overly potent, a little dry on the finish, which is nice. No, it's a good beer. I've had Wicked Weed Pernicious before, and it's very solid. Yeah, so not a bad way to finish out our theme. Now, next week we will begin a new theme, and actually, this is going to be a recurring theme for the rest of the year, starting in March. March. Obviously, this is March 1st, but like the heart of March, we are going to be every month highlighting a region of the country that also correlates very heavily to sports. So, for example, for March, where do you think we're going to start this theme? We're going to the DMV and we're going to taste some DMV beverages, a little bit of wine, mostly beer, but some wine mixed in, and we're going to see what that region has to offer. And then we'll bounce around. We'll do Pennsylvania, because obviously Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, two very big sports towns, New York, big sports area, New England with Boston. You got to cover them. Probably at some point move to the Carolinas because obviously college basketball is huge here. And then we do have some professional sports, three of the major sports. And then you got to cover some of the heavy spots like Texas. Got to have to go to Texas with all of their different sports teams, California. We're going to jump all over the country to 10 different regions, and each region will get a month focus here on the show. So that's the theme for the rest of the year, but for next week specifically, we kick off the DMV, and we're going to be drinking a very interesting wine, so definitely tune in for that. Before we go to our first commercial break, we have to talk about the biggest news of the week, and it literally just happened within the last probably hour and a half, for all of you guys in the chat room who undoubtedly saw the news. We have a trade alert here as the Commanders have jumped the gun. They have all of the trade rumors we've heard over the past month over different players, Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, Matt Stafford, all of these guys. The Commanders have kicked off what could be the chaos of the NFL offseason, free agency, and all that jazz. They have sent a fifth-round pick, most likely their 2025 fifth-round pick, to the San Francisco 49ers for wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Now, Deebo Samuel has been rumored to be on the move for some time now. This was not a secret that San Francisco was shopping him around. He was kind of clearly unhappy in San Francisco as well. So a move felt imminent here, and Washington went ahead and jumped it. Now, you know that I do not like drama. I do not like off the field drama. I do not like on the field drama. I don't like players that naturally bring drama. If you ask me my opinion of Kyrie Irving, for example, it's usually pretty low, and you can find, probably a couple other examples throughout sports. Deebo would fall into that category with the way the last couple of years in San Francisco have gone. However, for a fifth-round pick, and for a guy who hasn't quite turned 30, just turned 29 last month, who at one point in time was one of the best weapons in the league, now has dealt with some injury issues the past couple of seasons, and questions about how he's being used. But for a guy who still has the potential to be a really good weapon, only 1 year left on his contract, and with the compensation, this is a low-risk, high-reward situation. He comes in, he can easily slot in as the number 2 receiver to Terry McLaurin. I would expect the team to maybe use him in creative ways like San Francisco did. However, he's been vocal about not necessarily being used in that way, and the team does still have depth at running back to where they might not need to necessarily use him that way as often. Occasionally, sure. But I think in his heart, based on interviews and what I've heard, Deebo really just wants to be a wide receiver again, probably. And I think Washington has a perfect opening for him, like I said, to be that number 2 receiver and to be just a wide receiver again. And I think, the question, Zach Ertz, free agent, getting older, the running backs, health issues, etc. No other real weapons on the offense. That number 2 spot behind Terry McLaurin, not just in terms of a receiver, but as the target in the offense, is wide open. And I think that there are a lot worse ways to go about it than trading a 5th-round pick for Deebo Samuel. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they're done with the wide receiver position as well. Yes, they have Terry. Now they have Deebo. They have Luke McCaffrey. I am curious to see if they bring in a player to be the wide receiver 3, which would move McCaffrey to the 4 spot, which, I mean, he's already used more on special teams anyway, so I think that kind of fits his mold a little bit better. And then they could use their discretion on bringing back some of the other free agent receivers, Olamide Zaccheaus, Noah Brown, guys like that. But, I don't think they're done yet, but this is a huge step in the right direction. It does cost them a good chunk of their salary cap, but they still have a lot to work with. Plus, they do have opportunities and outlets to create more. Maybe releasing Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, that would save them about $8 or $9 million. They could trade and or release Jonathan Allen, ideally trade him so that they could get some draft capital back, because right now it's starting to run a bit thin with the 5th-round pick gone. They have their 1 and 2. They have Miami's 3. I don't remember exactly where that one came from, but they have a 1, 2, and a 3, and then it jumps to the 6th and 7th round pick. So they've got a gap in the middle of the draft that maybe trading Jonathan Allen might be able to help beef that up a little bit. But that would also be a way to help them create cap space should they start to get a little bit thin. Taryn asks a really good question. Taryn Rodriguez, could the Commanders go after a big-time free running back in free agent? I don't know if that would be the approach here. I think given how good this year's running back class is for the NFL draft, and that they do have 3 picks in the first top 80, I think going after a running back there makes a little bit more sense. And that then, you spend that money elsewhere. But they could. I don't think there's quite a Saquon Barkley available. I think maybe Josh Jacobs might be available. J.K. Dobbins from Taryn Rodriguez Chargers. I believe he is a free agent as well. So there could be some names that they might be interested in. But if they were going to go that route, I would just assume keep Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler and draft a running back would be my preference. So my instinct is to say no, but you never know. I mean, with teams with this much salary cap, they can address a bunch of different positions. So we'll see on that front. That's a great question, though, Taryn. I'd be curious to see how they address that in free agency. That will do it for the first little part of our show. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're jumping into hockey and basketball. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
How we doing, sports fans? This is Christian Harvey, your host of Gritsville, USA, your go-to show for all things Detroit and Michigan here on IE Sports Radio. Whether you're here for Gritty Lions talk, getting pumped up for the great Detroit sports renaissance, or hating on your neighbor depending on if they were green or blue, we got you covered. Whether you're in the East, West, or Central, we got you covered. Join me as we tackle through all that the great state of Michigan has to offer in the world of sports. Catch me, Christian Harvey, each week on Gritsville, USA, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
And welcome back to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's jump into the rest of the DMV now that we've talked a little bit of football. Let's start it off with our beloved Caps, who had a little bit of a rough week, 1-3. They did start their week great with a pretty big win over Edmonton, but then have struggled since then, losing three straight. They've only scored 4 goals in those 3 games. Their margin of loss, they've been close games, but it's been inflated by a couple of empty net goals, one in today's game against the Blues and one in the last game, I believe, against the Flames. So the margin of a defeat has not been large, but it has been there. But 1-3 on the week sets them at 38, 14, and 8 on the season. That's 84 points total. Still first in the East by a wide margin, still a 10-point lead in the division. But starting to get a little tight now as we finish game 60. We got 22 games left. We cannot lose momentum, especially not this hard. We have to keep going. We have to, I would say, at least get to that 100-point mark. If we can win 8 more games, not that I want to just win 8 more games, but we got to keep pushing. We got to break out of this stretch. A couple of people on X have made a pretty good point, is that does this slump maybe kind of kickstart the idea of maybe a slightly more aggressive trade than what the team had previously been exploring? We've discussed in previous shows as we approach the trade deadline of the Caps, maybe only adding a minor piece to beef up the bottom 6. Maybe they look for something a little bit more in depth now. Maybe push some of the guys who maybe are not performing as consistently down to the third line, and bump a couple of those, at least one of those bottom 6 guys down to maybe a healthy scratch. Jacob Vrana has not played, I think, in like a month and a half, so pretty easy decision if they were to trade for a player to waive him. So we'll see. We'll see how it approaches. They do also get potentially, people have said, reinforcements in the form of Ryan Leonard, a top prospect. Once he finishes off the college hockey season with Boston College, there's belief that he could get the call to the team. He could come in immediately, maybe as a third liner, and beef up that bottom 6 again. So we'll see. Goaltending play out of the break has been a little bit inconsistent. Both Logan Thompson and Charlie Lindgren, neither one has put together a really strong performance, although Thompson was not bad today. He didn't face a ton of shots, so it was a little lame that he let 2 goals by on just 18 shots. So, but he wasn't terrible. Just the offense. I mean, well, and also in Tampa Bay's defense, their goalie Vasilevsky, I believe they still have Vasilevsky. He stopped like 50 shots. He was absolutely phenomenal today. So, Caps are in a little bit of a slump. It happens. I think it's like their second slump of the season. This one's actually a slump. The previous one, I think they went like 5-3-2 in a 10-game stretch, and people called it a slump. This is a little bit worse than that, losing 3 in a row. But hey, A little adversity might not be a bad thing. Maybe it'll teach this team that they're not invincible and that they need to bring it hard every night. Who knows? We do still have a player of the week, and that would go to Alex Ovechkin, who had 5 goals in 4 games, including a hat trick in that Edmonton game. He was the lone goal scorer in the game today, which of course seamlessly brings us to our Ovechkin record watch. With those 5 goals, he jumps up to 884. Which means 10 to tie, 11 to break. That should really say break instead of win. That's a kind of a weird way to put it. Win the record. No, 11 to break the all-time record. It's getting there. It's getting there, and I think everybody's really starting to feel it, that it could happen very soon. By the way, interesting fact, Ovechkin missed 16 games this year due to his injury, and is still tied for 4th in the league in goals. So, hey, that's pretty darn good. Upcoming schedule for this week, they are at home against the Senators, at the Rangers, and then at home against the Red Wings. Not a super difficult schedule again. None of those teams are fellow top 5 opponents. In fact, you could argue if any of them are even maybe top 10 hockey teams. So for a team to get back on track, this is probably about as good a stretch as any to do so against these 3 teams if they can score a couple of wins here and kind of get that momentum back. Now, I need everybody to stay with me here. Don't leave me. Don't have a heart attack. Don't fall out of your chair. Don't hurt yourself at this statement. First of all, we have to call them the Washington Wizards this week because they did win a game, but they didn't just win 1 game. They've won 2 games, which means they actually outwon the Caps this week, and in a week where they played the same number of games. I know. Let's all just take a moment. Let's breathe it in. Bring it in. Absorb it. Acknowledge it. Okay, we're good. We're going to roll with it. So the Wizards went 2-2 on the week, bringing them to 11-48 on the season. That's still the worst record in the league. So, I mean, they're still, I think, 3.5 games worse than the next closest opponent. Interestingly enough, the team they beat today, the Charlotte Hornets, they actually swept the season series against the Hornets, which the Hornets suck. So, if there's a team that's going to happen, it's going to be them. But this team is 7-48 against the rest of the league and somehow 4-0 against the Hornets. In that same vein, the Hornets are 14-41, which I mean isn't great against the rest of the league, but 0-4 against the Wizards there. So, hey, go figure. In a season where the team is awful and is scraping to get to 15, 16, 17 wins, they managed a season series sweep, and that's the first time since 2022 that they swept any team. So who'd have thought that would be the streak to fall this year for the Wizards? Is the series sweep drought is over? Who'd have thunk it? Player of the week. We do get a player of the week this week since there were victories. That award, I'm going to give it to Jordan Poole. Even though he only played in 3 of the games and missed the victory today, he was the best player in their first win of the week, which was against the Trailblazers. Wait, was it the Trailblazers or was it the... Okay, I forget. It was either the Trailblazers or it wasn't against the Magic. Who was the second team? The Nets. It was against the Nets. And he was the best player on the team for that game. Today's win didn't have one player particularly dominant. We had like 6 guys scoring double figures. So that one did not particularly have a super dominant performance. So I give it to Poole, who averaged 22 points in the 3 games that he played, 4 rebounds, 3 assists on 48, 42, 92. That's 2-point, 3-point, and free throw shooting percentage. So pretty solid week for Poole as a whole. He's been by far the most consistent contributor this year for the team. And of all of the guys, like I said before the trade deadline, of all of the guys on the team, he's the one who I would want most to stick around as kind of that veteran presence for those young guys. And ideally, once we find the guys, which I don't think any of them are on the team necessarily quite yet, I do think we just still have a collection of strong role players and supporting cast to whoever will end up being the guys. Whoever that may be, I do think that Poole would be good complementary fiddle to whoever they decide to bring in as those guys. Upcoming schedule for the team, they are at the Miami Heat. That's a little bit of a tough matchup. Home against the Jazz, that one's favorable. And at the Raptors, they actually play the Raptors back-to-back in the next week or so. So a couple of more winnable games. Could we be talking about a 12-win Wizards team? Remember, we still have that competition between the Wizards and the Commanders that we're tracking on who's going to win more games, including playoffs. Reminder that the Commanders got to 14, so the Wizards only need 4 more to pass, and they have 23 games left. So they have to go 4-19, which is pretty much right on the pace they are at right now, approximately. I don't think it's that far off. I mean, over a 20-game stretch, they're basically averaging like 3.5 and 16, so 4 and 19. Feels about proportional. Well, let's do the math here. So right now, they have a 18.6% winning percentage, and they have to have a 17.4% winning percent chance. So actually, if they keep on their pace, okay, let's do that again. 11 out of 59. If we do that over an 82-game season, that is a 15-win season. Maybe if you want to round up to between 15 and 16 wins. So if they keep up their pace, they do pass the Commanders, so that's important. We're going to be watching that. That's about the only thing we're watching for the Wizards the rest of the way, obviously in continued development of young players. Keyshawn George, the rookie, getting a lot of positive press from people as he continues to develop as a defender as well, really starting to fit the mold of that 3-and-D archetype that has become so popular in the league. And for a guy who I anticipate in the future will be a key role player off the bench, that is certainly a good role to fill. We're going to take another quick break. When we come back, we're going to check in on our college sports and also check in on our DMV participants in the NFL Combine. We had a bunch of guys from Maryland, Virginia, and Virginia Tech participate. Some had good showings, some had bad showings. We're going to take a look at who did what, including one of my favorites and him having a very good day. So do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy, Dentarius Locke.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
And welcome back to Let's Wine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We are into the final portion of our show here tonight, and we are going to start with our Combine check-in. The NFL Combine started, well, the workout started on Thursday, and players actually started arriving in Indy, I believe, on Monday or Tuesday, and the DMV has had a lot of participants. All of the position groups have worked out except for the offensive line, which is actually extraordinarily convenient for us here on the show because somehow, in some way, given that offensive line is the biggest position group on any roster, usually, maybe defensive line, secondary, all of that jazz, but no, there are no DMV players present in Indy for the offensive line. So we actually have all of our DMV participants have already gone and worked out. So let's take a look at how everybody is. Starting off with the first group that went, which was the defensive line. And actually the first player to do anything at Indy for an on-field workout was a Maryland player, defensive lineman Tommy, and I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, Akimbasote. That was a damn good effort, I'm just going to say. But he was the first D lineman to work out. 6'4", 306-pound defensive tackle. Ran a 5.09 40, not bad. Showed pretty good 10-yard splits. Not the greatest broad jumps and vertical jumps, which for those of you who are not super familiar with all the workouts at the NFL Combine, they use the jumps to kind of correlate it to your explosiveness, how quickly you can kind of accelerate and how quickly you can like jump out of your stance and kind of get yourself going. So not the greatest for him, but 6'4", 306, pretty good size, and 5.09 40 is nothing to sniff at. So good performance from him. We also had among the defensive linemen here, just kind of scrolling down the list, we had Aeneas Peebles out of Virginia Tech, 6'1.5", 282 pounds, so a little bit smaller of a defensive tackle, but he ran a 4.94 and actually had a pretty good showing across the board in the athleticism stuff. So much more of a pass rusher from the interior, what they would call a 3 technique guy who's more prone to getting after the quarterback. The size is going to be a concern at only 6'1.5" an inch and only 280 pounds, but we're starting to see some of those guys get work as reserve pass rushers. So, you know, he might find a role like that in the NFL. And then we also have Jordan Phillips, defensive tackle from Maryland, who is actually a guy that has a little bit of buzz entering the draft as a mid-round pick. He measured in 6'1.5", 312 pounds. Did not participate, did put up 29 reps of 225 pounds, which actually looks like the highest total among the defensive tackles, so that's good for him, and showed good athleticism as well. So I think overall a pretty good showing for him and Peebles. Not as much for Akinbasote, but still pretty good, not anything to snuff at. Let's see, among the edge rushers, looking down, as much as I would love to take credit for Mike Green out of Marshall, that's in West Virginia. That one doesn't count, unfortunately. We did have Antoine Powell Rowland, defensive edge rusher out of Virginia Tech, 6'2.5", 258 pounds. He did run a 4.69, which is pretty good athleticism off the edge, and showed very well in the jumps, too, showing his explosiveness. He is a guy who's also gotten some buzz as a mid-round pick, and I think, you know, a common phrase they use when they look at players is they'll go, that'll play in the NFL. And I think that's what Roland Powell did at the Combine. He made everybody probably looked at all the numbers, looked at the explosiveness, the speed, and went, that'll play. I'm good with that. I can work with that. So that was his workout. Moving over to the linebackers, just doing a quick scan here. I do not see any DMV participants there. Cornerbacks, I know we at least had a couple in here. Let's go down the list. We have, maybe, I guess just one, just Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. Coming in at 6'1", 185 pounds. Good length, good hand size for a corner. Ran a 4.5, tested out pretty well in the athleticism, even put up 15 bench reps at 225. So not bad for him. He was probably overshadowed by several other corners who performed very well. But I think, pretty decent. Not anything to be disappointed at for sure. In his performance at the combine there for Dorian Strong. Safeties, I think we have a couple of safeties here. Ryan Lane III out of Navy. Not often that you see Navy players at the NFL Combine, but he came in 5'11", 200 pounds, 4.57. Not the overall most amazing numbers here. Decent, though. Not anything that's going to hurt his draft stock, just nothing that's not particularly going to help him. We have Jonas Sanker out of Virginia. 6 foot, 206 pounds, 4.48 40. That's going to turn some heads. And pretty good showing, decent jumps, good 10-second split here. So he's a guy, when you are a lower rated prospect, one of the best things you can do is do something that catches somebody's eye in a positive way, get their attention. And I think, in terms of for Sanker, who I do not believe is a marquee prospect in this draft, he did that with that speed and that athleticism. So that's good for him. And then we have Dante Trader Jr. out of Maryland, 5'11", 196. Okay showing, didn't run, which isn't a problem, but didn't put up incredible numbers in the other drills. So not gaining attention, which isn't the worst. The worst is when you get negative attention for your performance, which there were several players at the Combine that did. So just kind of an okay showing for Trader at the Combine. Tight ends, I don't recall there being anybody, and there is nobody in the tight end group. Running backs, I know specifically there's one we have to get to, but let's go down the list here. So there was only the one, and I'm so happy that we get to talk about this guy, Bashul 210, who we talked about a lot over during the season as basically the only guy for Virginia Tech who was doing anything. 5'9", 206, ran the fastest 40-yard dash time for a running back at 4.32. He was and he was also the only running back who ran under a 4.4 that was over 200 pounds. So that size-speed combo, he was considered a late-round guy, but a lot of teams are going to put their eyes on him now for that speed, and they're going to find a player, if they haven't been researching him yet, who's a weapon. And he was a weapon for Virginia Tech. He was the only weapon on a bad Virginia Tech team. He also had the best 10-yard split, the best vertical jump, and tied for the best broad jump. So this kid is an athlete, just a straight athlete, and he turned some heads at the Combine, and hopefully they're able to see what we got to discuss over the course of the season, which is a player who can make plays, even with virtually no support around him. Quarterback, nobody there, so we're just down to the wide receivers. Now, we had several wide receivers. I'll try to blow through these. Let's see, Daquan Felton from Virginia Tech, 6'4.5", big man, 213 pounds, great length, 4.5 40, not bad. Again, what's our saying? That'll play. Pretty good showing by him. Tay Felton, my guy Tay Felton out of Maryland, who y'all know I was a big fan of during the season. Two good things happened to him. One, he showed the explosiveness and the athleticism he showed at Maryland, where kind of similar to 210, he was the guy. But the weigh-in, he weighed in 6'1", which is about what people expected, but 183. Why am I happy about 183? People were worried he was going to show up in the 170 to 175 range, and then that would invite questions whether that would play in the NFL. He quelled those concerns a little bit by weighing in about 10 pounds heavier than what some anticipated, and then still showing the explosiveness and the athleticism. Huge, huge day for him. Other DMV receivers, we had Jalen Lane, another Virginia Tech receiver, and I didn't talk about this many Virginia Tech receivers during the season, so I don't know where all these guys are coming from. But Jalen Lane, 5'9.5", 191, smaller guy, slot guy, did run a 4.34 and showed incredible athleticism. So this guy's quick, speedy, explosive. I could see a team trying to use that in the league in some way, shape, or form. And Caden Prather, the number 2 receiver from Maryland this past season, 6'3.5", 204, did run a 4.46, pretty good. However, the lowest vertical and broad jumps of anybody at the combine. That is a red flag in the sense that, he's got good long speed, obviously, with the 40-yard dash, but is he explosive? Is he sudden? Is he quick? That's going to be the question there. Although, for a 6'3.5" receiver who's 205 pounds in good length, I don't know if that's necessarily as big of a concern there. Although teams are going to see it as a red flag. And he is the last. Was that everybody? Yep, that's everybody. So overall, pretty good performances by our DMV guys for the combine. We just now have to wait 54 days to see how that's going to translate to draft night. But I do think Ty Felton is a guy that if teams aren't looking at him on day 2, they should be. And I think you could see other guys, Jordan Phillips, who we talked about, the defensive tackle, Antoine Roland Powell, a couple of Dorian Strong, guys who are kind of middle of the round prospects, and a few late round guys, 210 and Prather and a couple of the other guys. I think this could be a decent showing for the DMV come draft night. Now we've got a few minutes left, so let's do a quick college sports check-in as I stumble over that saying. Clearly, I haven't had enough beer here. Okay, because that'll absolutely help with my speech and my mumbling of words. University of Maryland's team got another victory this week, up to 22-6. One game left against the ranked Ohio State team before the conference championship week. That would be great if they could secure that victory. That'd be a win over a top 25 team who I don't think, no, it was FSU who beat the ranked Notre Dame team, not University of Maryland. But a good top 25 win, it doesn't hurt when it comes to the rankings. But yes, one big game and then the tough conference championship schedule coming up for them. University of men's team 1-1 this week, a heartbreaking buzzer beater loss to Michigan State. That would have been a massive one to add to the resume, but then came back with a win over Penn State. They have Michigan and Northwestern before the conference championship. Would be really awesome if they could secure back 3 straight to go into the championship with some momentum, get that to 24-7. Get a couple of wins in the championship, get it to 26-8, 27-8. That's probably good enough for a 5, maybe a 4 seed, depending on how they do in the championship. So cross your fingers that they do that. Right now, I haven't looked at bracketology. If I were to guess off the top of my head, they're probably listed as a 5 or a 6 seed. But I would love to see them just get a little bit higher there. VCU men's basketball team is sitting at 24-5 and still getting votes for the top 25 rankings. So, hey, shout out to them for having a great season. The Richmond women's team is at 26-5, and they are also getting votes. And by the way, both the schools are in Richmond, by the way. There's Richmond University and then VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, both in Richmond, Virginia. So crosstown rivals. And oh, by the way, they're in the same conference. So there's got to be some little bit of rivalry going there. But yes, the Richmond women's team doing very well also, most definitely. I think VCU's got a very good chance, even if they don't necessarily win their conference, to get an at-large bid. Because again, if you're getting votes, that puts you probably somewhere in the mid-30s at the lowest. You got to think the top 35 teams get into a 68-team tournament. So maybe a 9 seed, maybe a 10 seed could be in play as an at-large team. I know there's lots of small conferences that get automatic bids, but they fill out the 16, 15, 14 seeds anyway. So, why not, see if they could be in there as a 9 and 10 at large? Maybe one of the last 4 in. Who knows? Ricky Keeler, Good point. VCU always causes problems in March. They are one of those teams. We've seen them make runs before. So yeah, get VCU in the NCAA tournament. Also salute to Marcus Losgreat this evening. Good evening, sir. And really quick on baseball and softball here, Virginia's baseball team up to 6-3 on the season. That's important. Why is that important? Because they were 3-3 last week. So they secured 3 victories, starting to get that momentum going, which I don't think anybody in college baseball wants Virginia to get momentum and get stuff going. University of Maryland sitting at 6-4, solid, unspectacular, but playing a good baseball. And Virginia Tech getting a little bit on a roll. They're up to 8-2 now, so watch out for Virginia Tech as their softball team as well continues to do well. They are 12-3 last I checked, still ranked pretty highly. Virginia and Liberty have entered the chat. They are there now. In the bottom part of the rankings, I believe Liberty's 22 or 23, somewhere around there, and Virginia is in there at 25. So DMV softball starting to get hot. DMV baseball is looking pretty darn good. As you know, we gave the Virginia and Virginia Tech basketball teams the week off because you can only bash a team so much. You got to give them a little bit of leeway, a little bit of grace. We'll see if they can do anything in the conference championship games. If not, we will bid salute to them and keep going with our Maryland teams that I could pretty safely say they're going to be in the NCAA tournament. So we'll at least get to talk about them for a few more weeks. We might only be 3 weeks away from no more college basketball, folks. That's pretty wild to think about, but baseball season is going to be coming up, which we didn't even talk about spring training today, and that's okay. We'll catch up next week when we don't have combine news, and we might have major trade news for football teams. Who the heck knows? You never know. Somebody else might do something. Ravens, Caps, trade deadline, well, we'll include that in our Caps talk. We unfortunately have to keep talking about the Wizards, but, it is what it is. I get a little bit of joy out of it sometimes. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to Adam, Taryn, Ricky, Marcus, Larry, Alden, Brian, everybody who jumped in the chat room. Thank you to everybody who listened live, and everybody who listens live in the week. Do be sure to check out the Supporters Club. Once again, you get some pretty fun perks out of that. You can pick a wine. You can pick a team for me to talk about. I'll dedicate a whole show to you with your beverage of choice, your team of choice, or your city of choice, as long as it's reasonable. Maybe a DMV college that we could focus on, a smaller school. Maybe you're a Towson fan. Maybe you're a University of Maryland, Baltimore College fan. Maybe you're a Howard fan. Who knows? Lots of different options. And when you branch into Virginia, Liberty, James Madison, all the schools that we don't even talk about very often, although we do give Liberty and James Madison some love every now and then on there, so don't think that. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Head on over to planetjerky.net to get yours today. Also, Vital Apparel, do check them out. Remember to use IES code IESR to get 15% off your purchase and help them on their journey to continue supporting mental health research. Seal the Deal Wax Seals, go to @SealTheDeal_Wax Seals on Instagram to check them out. Raw Nutrition, go to getrawnutrition.com and use promo code IESR there as well to get 10% off. And do check out the IE Sports Radio website, iesportsradio.com, where you can find the blog, show pages, show schedule, Hall of Fame, merchandise, and so much more. Follow the show network on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Follow yours truly at letswine_IESR. And of course, reminder of the show's main message, please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. Find a designated driver, Lyft, Amazon, ship yourself home. I just don't care. Just please do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. We will be back next week with more DMV Sports, but in the meantime, thank you for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.